What up, childrens? Old man shouting at clouds. Uh, this one's a spicy one today. All fired up. So, what is the topic of today's conversation? Well, I've been seeing a lot of content online lately, and it talks about pretty privilege. And what does that mean? Well, it means that or at least the hypothesis is that you get treated differently if you are attractive. And I do think I've seen some data that supports that conclusion. And anecdotally, I've certainly noticed it in my life that attractive people get treated differently. And, maybe your reaction to that initially is, well, that's unfair. Yeah, yeah, it is, but it's still reality. So you need to be aware of it. But the reason that the thing that motivated me to make this video is a lot of the content I've seen online specifically focuses on women. So it says it's like pretty girl privilege or pretty woman privilege. And it kind of ignores that aspect, or at least minimizes the aspect of how attractiveness can also impact you if you're a man. And I have a couple of thoughts on this that are worth sharing. Now, this video is probably not going to do any of you any good, children of mine. It's probably not going to do any of you any good for at least a few years. So, if you see this one in the library, maybe skip it and wait for a few years before you watch it, or knock yourself out and watch it now. It just probably isn't going to mean as much to you, particularly Sam and Maddie. Jackson, maybe it'll start to matter for you. But at any rate, yes, there does seem to be some truth to the fact that you get treated differently if you're attractive. And I do think in America, maybe more than in other places, this is especially pronounced as it relates to women. And maybe you feel some kind of way about that. Maybe you're like, well, that's pretty unfair. I'm not gonna disagree with you on that. We do seem to, here in America at least, we do seem to value attractiveness even more if you are female. Not that we don't value it if you're male, but it seems to be treated differently than it seems to be treated differently with women than it is with men. But it is important to acknowledge that if you are a good-looking man, you're still treated differently than an average-looking guy or a not-so-good-looking guy. So we do need to acknowledge that too. It's not just women who get treated differently based on their appearance. Now, we can feel some kind of way about that and say that's pretty superficial and dumb and we shouldn't do that. Okay, sure. I'm not going to argue with you. I don't think it's the greatest idea to treat people based on their appearance. I think you should evaluate who that person is as a human being in totality. Now, are we all going to have preferences, especially as we get into the age where we're dating other people that are physically based? Of course, that's natural. You're going to have people you find attractive. Now, some of that's subjective, right? So there are people that maybe I find attractive that someone else might not. There's going to be personal preferences to that. And then there are going to be some things that kind of span, that's not the right wording, but like there are some people we could all probably agree are good looking, right? Like if you're a woman in America, you're probably not going to argue with me if I say Chris Hemsworth is a good looking dude. Okay? Probably 99% of women in America would agree with that statement. Similarly, if you're a dude who's interested in women, very, very good chance you're going to find somebody. Oh God, I'm so bad at this. I can never think of examples off the top of my head. Little weird that I could think of an example of a dude, seeing as how I'm married to a woman. Okay, whatever. We'll move beyond that, but there are certainly examples of famous women, I'm just bad at thinking of it, who we could all agree are attractive. Sydney Sweeney. Okay, probably if you asked 9 out of 10 guys on the street if Sydney Sweeney's attractive, they're probably going to say yes. But anyway, that's not the point of this conversation. The point is there. I've seen so much content lately talking about like, and maybe it's my own algorithm. Fine, guilty, but I've seen so much content that it's like, oh, female, like pretty girl privilege, and it's like, oh, you get all these benefits for being a good looking woman, and it's like people wagging their finger at these attractive women, like how, you're getting a lot of unearned benefits, blah, 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 blah. It's like, okay, first of all, that's true. Like, okay, if you're a attractive woman and you're trying to argue that you don't get treated differently for being attractive, I'm sorry if this is your wake-up call. You 100% do get treated differently because you're attractive. It's not your fault, but you do. Like, that's just reality. But I think a lot of the, like, antagonistic content I'm seeing is very misplaced. Like, you're blaming the person who's the recipient of this. They didn't create that social norm. It's not their fault. If anyone, blame yourself. Do you treat pretty girls differently than average looking girls? Well, then that's on you. Stop doing that. If you don't want them to enjoy special treatment and special benefits for being attractive, then stop giving it to them. To me, a lot of that content, it's like a parent getting mad at their child for being spoiled and entitled. It's like, well, who do you think spoiled and entitled them? You did. So stop complaining about it. If you want the world to be different, be the change you want to see in the world. And some of that, like, we all need to take ownership of that. If you're a parent and you've got kids, stop overemphasizing, oh, you're so cute. Oh, look, don't you look handsome? Oh, don't you look pretty? Focus on other things then. And, maybe don't spoil them. It's like, make sure that you emphasize like character traits that are good, like emphasize kindness, emphasize capabilities, like emphasize developing a good personality and a sense of humor and integrity. Really double down on complimenting them for those things and stop complimenting them on how they look. They can't change that in a lot of cases. You are who you are. You win the genetic lottery or you don't. So we need to own that. Like, that's not on the pretty girl to own it. It's on you. It's on all of us. Like, stop blaming them. Now, could you hope that a person would still develop a personality and a moral compass and understand that maybe they're, maybe have some awareness that they're being treated differently? Sure, you could hope that. But the reality is we're all like this, okay? You immediately, as soon as you would enjoy certain advantages in life, I don't care what it is, whether it's financial, whether it's stability-wise, whether it's the amount of love you've received, that quickly becomes your baseline, and you just expect that from now on. We are all guilty of that. I'm guilty of it. You guys are for sure guilty of it. Like, that just becomes your normal, and you just expect things to work that way. You don't even realize what a benefit it is, what a privilege it is, how lucky you are to enjoy it. I mean, how many times a day do you guys sit down and think, boy, I'm really lucky to live in this house, and I have my own bedroom, and I have heat when it's cold and air conditioning when it's hot, and I've got clothes on my back, and I eat, when I'm hungry, I just have food available to me. How many times a day do you think that? I'm going to guess in the average day, 0. Meanwhile, there are people on Earth who don't enjoy all that stuff. So can you really get mad at a pretty person for not appreciating the benefits they get? That's just how life has worked for them. Their entire life, they've just walked around being good looking and being treated differently accordingly. They just think that's how everybody gets treated. They probably don't even notice in a lot of cases that they're being treated differently. So I think a lot of that really antagonistic content is very misplaced, and I think it creates some really unhealthy ideas. Now, it I would encourage you guys to be aware that that's a thing so that you don't play into it, okay? Just treat everybody the same. Treat everybody with kindness, treat everybody with basic human decency. And then, if somebody is stuck up because they're better looking, you don't have to play into that. You can just treat them like everyone else. But I will challenge you to not overly hold that against them. Okay? Because again, a whole lot of factors went into them forming that personality. Okay? A whole lot of people in their life treated them differently. It's not totally their now you could hope that they would overcome this. You could hope that they'd be interested in doing the work to develop a good personality anyway and have a moral compass anyway, because there are some very attractive people who manage to do exactly that, right? But maybe it's because they were raised differently. So at the end of the day, I think it is an important thing to be aware of. Yes, at least in this, as of the recording of this video, it is a thing. You do get treated a little better if you're considered attractive than you do if you're not. Sorry, it isn't fair. I agree, but it is reality. So you need to be aware of it first. And then once you're aware of it, I hope you will have the maturity to not completely hold that against people and at least understand that it's like a lot of external factors went into that person developing the way that they did, rather than them just like being born a crappy person with no personality and, no moral compass, right? They were enabled to do that, maybe at least have some compassion for how a person could end up in that position. So that's a thing. And I do hope that none of you will fall victim to this, okay? If granted, I'm your dad. I think all of you guys are wonderful and the sun shines out of your backsides and, you're overachievers and attractive children. You're going to grow up to be attractive adults, whatever. Yeah, I'm your dad. I'm sure your mom would say the same. Sam and Jackson, you're very handsome, and Maddie, you're very beautiful, Okay. Whatever. But you may grow up to be that, okay? And if you do grow up to be that, I hope you don't spend too much time patting yourself on the back for it. If that ends up being the case, you won the genetic lottery, congratulations, but it doesn't say anything about you as a person. You need to do the work to become a decent human being, regardless of how other people are treating you, okay? If people are handing you stuff because you're good looking, I'm not saying I expect you to give it back and not accept it, but I do expect you to at least acknowledge the advantage you're enjoying, okay? There's like almost nobody in society we revile more than people who have an undeserved sense of entitlement, okay? Or people who get things and don't acknowledge the fact that they're at least a little bit lucky to have gotten them. Think about this in turn, like to make a comparison to something else with really, really rich people in America. Why do you often think we hear so many people complaining about rich people? Is it because we just hate anyone who's successful? No. I mean, I could understand why somebody would think that at first blush, but if you actually dive into it, that's not it. What we hate is people who enjoy all the benefits without acknowledging that they're at least a little fortunate to have those benefits. Okay? When people are humble about it, when they give back, we don't hate those people. And if you don't believe me, I'm going to reference heroes, people that we view as heroes, okay? And yes, I know they're not real people, but who is one of the most famous and popular superheroes of all time? Any guesses? I'm giving you one of my favorites, Batman. Yes. The Dark Knight, the Caped Crusader. Is he the Caped Crusader? He's definitely the Dark Knight. That one I'm positive about. But what are some things we know about Batman? He's exceptionally rich, and he can only fight crime in the way that he does because he's exceptionally rich. But he doesn't use his wealth to become a jerk. He uses his wealth to fight crime and help others. So, and he's been one of the most enduring superheroes historically. Like ever since the character was created, he's had a huge following. There's something we respond to. There's something we enjoy and respect about Batman, right? Because he's got the resources. Homeboy could just go live on his yacht and sail around the world and do nothing but have fun. And instead, he chooses to spend his time fighting crime. So it's not the fact that he's wealthy that we dislike. It's not, when you're wealthy, it's not your wealth that we dislike. It's the way you act once you have it, okay? To bring this back to the subject at hand, it's not pretty people we despise or are envious. I mean, we're definitely, listen, would I like to look like Chris Hemsworth? Sure. You know, if I rubbed a magic lamp and somebody could make me more attractive, I probably wouldn't turn it down. But like we don't really dislike you for being attractive until you act entitled because of it, okay? That's the key piece. So I'm going to challenge you, if you do grow up to be universally thought of as attractive, I'm going to challenge you to not allow that to go to your head. I'm going to challenge you to earn things anyway. I'm going to challenge you to not just accept handouts all the time because you happen to be good looking. Now, again, I said it earlier in this video. I'm not, listen, if you have an advantage, I don't always have a problem with you taking advantage of it, but be aware of these things, okay? And be humble enough to recognize that sometimes you're getting things you haven't necessarily earned, okay? That will make you a much, much more respectable person. People will respect you much more for that, okay? If all you do is rest on your laurels and take advantage of a genetic lottery you didn't earn, people aren't going to respect that, and they will take it out on you to some degree. So this is kind of a different one for me because but I still think it's an important one. I think it's very important, particularly here in America, where appearances definitely matter. A lot of outward-facing things matter. We care. We're kind of superficial about some of this stuff. So it's at least worth being aware of. Anyway, it was kind of rambly and kind of ranty, but I hope you did take something worthwhile out of it. I love you very much. Hopefully, we'll talk to you sooner. Bye.